Okay, here we are, live with Carmen Rodríguez. We are just waiting for a little bit more people to join. Just making sure that we are live and good. Yes. Hi everyone, hi Carmen. You can unmute yourself now.
Hello.
Hello, hello. So let's say hello to everybody. I'm Lili Vieira de Carvalho, the Executive Director of VLACC. I should start recording this, so I couldn't do that. Just waiting a few seconds more so people can join us. Okay, hi everyone. We are happy to be live here on Facebook with Carmen Rodríguez. I'm Lili Vieira de Carvalho, the Executive Director of the Vancouver Latin American Cultural Center. VLACC is an organization with a mandate to share a deeper understanding of Latin American arts. We would like to invite you all, if you don't know VLACC, to visit our website at www.vlacc.ca. We would like to start the evening by thanking and acknowledging that we are zooming out or Facebook living from the unceded and ancestral territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. As tonight we're going to talk about the future and the past of the arts and culture for the Latin American communities here in Vancouver, and also how we move forward. We would like that all these movements to be in tune and always respecting, acknowledging, and sharing the knowledge of the First Nations of this country, and that we feel just so honored, proud, and grateful to be in these lands. We are here tonight, which is Women's Day, International Women's Day, and I feel so proud that we are going to be sharing this day with all of you. And one of our favorite women, Carmen Rodríguez. Carmen was born in Valdivia, Chile. She is a bilingual writer, and she came to Canada as a political exile in 1974. She is the author of Guerra Prolongada, Protracted War. That's a book published by Women's Press in 1992. Also a bilingual volume of poetry and A Body to Remember, The Cuerpo Entero, from 1997. In Retribution, a novel. So A Body to Remember is a collection of short stories. Guerra Prolongada is a volume of poetry. And with the Cuerpo Entero, Carmen was awarded an honorary mention of Santiago's Premio Municipal de Literatura in 1998. We'll have a photo of that to show you in a bit. While In A Body to Remember was a finalist for the Vancouver Book Award also in 1998. Retribution obtained second place in the Best Popular Novel category of the 2012 International Latino Book Awards in New York. In Chile's Dotre, the Norwegian translation of Retribution was released in 2013 in Oslo. Its Spanish version, El Desquite, is forthcoming. In addition to being a writer, Carmen has worked extensively as an educator and a journalist. Until recently, she taught in the Latin American Studies program of the Simon Fraser University, and was Vancouver's correspondent for the Spanish language section of Radio Canada International. More recently, Carmen was awarded the YWCA Vancouver's Women of Distinction Awards in the Arts, Culture, and Design category. But now I would like to talk a little bit why we are doing this today, because here at VLACC, talk about VLACC, Carmen in relation to VLACC. Even before VLACC's incorporation, when we started the nonprofit organization back in 2012, Carmen assumed an informal advisory role, upholding the organization to the highest values, sharing her deeply rooted network, and educating VLACC on the development of the Latin American community in Vancouver. Some of this history are going to share with you tonight. And now, tonight, Carmen is becoming VLACC's Honorary Elder. Elder is a term used mainly within indigenous communities worldwide, but VLACC feels that it's very fitting for the role that Carmen has been playing with us. In Carmen's words, and I quote, "Indigenous and other societies rooted in a harmonious relationship with nature and collaboration among humans do value their elders. Given the dire state of today's world, I think we could all benefit from slowing down and reconsidering our ways of being and working on this planet. Elders can help us do that, as they can bring the lessons of the past into the present and assist us in envisioning and shaping a better future for all." So as part of nominating Carmen our elder, we commissioned a series of portraits to Brazilian photographer Felipe Fitzpatrick, and I'm just going to show you these photos to you in a second, or at least one of them. Just find this. So this is the main photo by Felipe Fittipaldi. We printed and gifted this to Carmen this past weekend to mark this date. And so it is my pleasure at this moment to add one more distinction to Carmen's list. On behalf of the Vancouver Latin American Cultural Center, VLACC, it is my honor to induct our beloved Carmen Rodríguez as VLACC's Honorary Elder. Thank you so much, Carmen. Gracias. It's so good to have you here. Now let's start our conversation. Everyone is welcome to ask questions using the chat function on Facebook. And Carmen, I just introduced yourself, but I would like to know how do you usually introduce yourself? What are the things in your background that you highlight when you are introducing yourself?
Thank you, Lily. First of all, I want to thank the Vancouver Latin American Cultural Center for this distinction, which fills me with pride, with pleasure, and also with a sense of duty. One, because I'm old now, and that is being recognized. And because I've got to the age that I am now, I do carry with me the memories and the experiences of having been in Vancouver since 1974. And I hope that I will be able to continue offering what I know and to VLACC, so that we can advance in continuing to offer the beautiful programming that we do, and also to establish a cultural center here in Vancouver. How do I introduce myself? It depends. I'm an abuelita, which I'm very proud of, a grandmother of 3 beautiful children. I'm the mother of 3 beautiful grown-ups now. I'm a partner of my husband, and I am a writer. I'm an educator. I'm a journalist. an activist. But for me, all of those things are not separate from each other. They're actually all interconnected. They're all part of one life, of one way of approaching life and being in this world. So yeah, it depends on who I'm talking to, where I am, but that's the way that I see myself. I'm a good cook. I like red wine. I love my friends, my family. So that's what it is.
Yeah, wonderful. So I would like us to take this time, because even Saturday when we met and I brought you the frame picture, we're talking about all the experiences you went through with through the years since you got here in the 70s. And so maybe you can start talking about this mass movement from Chile, from Chileans to Vancouver in the mid 70s, and how was that decision taken in your case, and how did you connect to other Chileans here into the Latin American community?
Mm-hmm. As you said, I arrived in Vancouver in 1974. There were already a few Chileans here that had come a few months earlier. We all left because of the military coup against the Popular Unity government of Salvador Allende. And we came because our lives were in danger, and because many of our friends and comrades and family members had been killed or disappeared or tortured. And so when we got to Vancouver, we were a wounded community. We had not only lost friends, as I said, or family members, but we had also lost the country, and we had been basically forced to leave very quickly, fearing for our lives and our well-being. So the sense of community back then, was very strong. We did lots of things together, but basically the main things that we did were to organize these wonderful peñas, these events that back then happened at the Russian Hall in Strathcona. We formed singing groups, musical ensembles. Maybe you can look at the pictures now. There's a picture of Cormoran, which I was a part of, which was an all-women's group that we formed in '75. And so there you can see that we were invited to this folk fest celebration. I believe it was at Queen Elizabeth Park. But also, as I said, we would organize these peñas at the Russian Hall, where we would make hundreds of empanadas for days and talk about what was going on in Chile. All of this with the support also of many Canadians who were in solidarity with our predicament back then. Another group that we formed after Cormoran was Resistencia, which was a mixed group directed by Quique Cruz, who went on to become a professional musician to this day. There you can see my brother in the forefront and the other members. So yeah, the 70s were filled with initiatives that connected us to Latin America, but also we were prompted by our desire to show Canada, show Canadians of all ancestries who we were and why we were here and why we were not in our countries of origin. Also in the 70s, we formed the first Latin American radio program on co-op radio, America Latina al Día, which was passed on from generation to generation until today. It's the oldest standing radio program from co-op radio. So lots of history there. You can imagine how in this program, we didn't only tackle the news and the analysis of what was going on in Chile and elsewhere in Latin America, but also music, interviews, all kinds of things. And actually, my brother, Nelson Rodríguez, was quite, I don't know why I said Rodríguez. Nelson Rodríguez was instrumental in producing and animating that program in those days.
I have a photo of him. Let me show that too. Yeah.
El gordo. El gordo.
So
yeah, there he is at La Quena, which was the next big event, the big marker in our presence here in Vancouver. La Quena was conceived and then established in the late 70s, early 80s. And there's my daughter and my son in front of La Quena on Commercial Drive, 1111 Commercial Drive. La Quena was a hub of activity, a meeting place, a space for artists, music, theater. For example, the Latino theater group that later on Carmen Aguirre, my daughter there, directed with Latino youth, used to show their productions there. The walls served as a gallery. There was not a night when an evening when La Quena was not full of people watching a movie, listening to music, listening to a reading, all kinds of things. But also, La Quena was a connection, served as a connection with Latin America, because sometimes groups or artists from Latin America came to perform, for example, at the Vancouver Folk Festival. And they always made a stop at La Quena, free of charge. They would perform for us. For those of us who couldn't afford to go to the other event, they would always come to La Quena and perform. And I can remember vividly Amparo Ochoa, for example, from Mexico, Yolo Cambaita from El Salvador, Santiago del Nuevo Extremo from Chile, and so on. I want to highlight that these efforts, like La Quena, were joint efforts between Canadians and Latin Americans. And the key person that worked to bring La Quena to fruition was Linda Forsythe, a very supportive Canadian who saw the need and knew that had the know-how of putting this together and making it happen. Also, I want to highlight that in the golden years of La Quena, in the mid-80s, the coordinator, which was the only person that got a little bit of a salary, because all the rest of the poor salary, I should say, all the rest of the people were volunteers, was Margarita Severin, who's now part of our choir as well.
Yes, exactly. So
it's a long history, right?
Yeah, she came full circle.
Yeah. And she was a wonderful cook and organizer, and she kept La Quena going. Those were really the golden days of La Quena. And my brother was in charge of the documentation center. There was a little room at the back where we kept books and newspapers and all kinds of materials that people could come and consult there and have a talk with Nelson, who loved to talk about all kinds of things with people. So yeah, La Quena was a real, it was the cultural center of the period. right? It was modest.
Yes, I mentioned to you that I had this meeting with people from the Britannia Community Center last week, and they were all, because we were talking about the future of Britannia that's going to go through a renovation, and somebody mentioned La Quena on the meeting, saying that how the amazing memories that they have from that time, and then I saw two other people pitching in, and you know, talking about La Quena with such nostalgia, but you know, from this vibrant time of the Latin American, having this space on the drive.
Yes, having that space was a wonderful thing. Was a wonderful thing for all Latin Americans, and also for the artists. You know, we felt that we did have a space, because, as we all know, breaking into the mainstream is very, very difficult to bring down the barriers that keep pushing us to the margins, right? Many of us did not speak English when we came, most of us. So that was also another barrier. But at La Quena, we could be ourselves and speak Spanish or Portuguese or whatever we wanted to speak, or English, or be translated. You know, it was a fluid kind of situation in that way. The other people that were very instrumental in La Quena were Scott Parker, also a Canadian, Carlos Carvajal, a Chilean, and so on.
So mainly Chileans, but there was a representation from other Latin American countries.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. Margarita is Argentinian, for example.
True. Yes.
Yeah. The 80s also marked the arrival of other communities from Latin America, particularly from Central America, Guatemalans, Salvadorans. And there was a wonderful band from Guatemala called Kin La La. They're internationally renowned, and they ended up here in Vancouver for similar reasons to the ones that we Chileans ended up in Vancouver. And Sarita Galvez, Sandra Moran, and others were part of this band that also performed at La Quena. Ramon Flores, and who later on formed La Trova Nuestra, would also perform at La Quena. So yeah, it was a time of after the 70s, you know, when we were kind of insular and turned in, you know, with the support of some Canadians. La Quena provided the opportunity to open up to Vancouver, because anybody could go in La Quena, have a good empanada, right? Have a good tamal, and at the same time listen to our music, watch a movie, do whatever whatever was happening. And it was also a place that was open to other communities, immigrant communities in Vancouver. It was not. It opened up to sister communities of people that were arriving in Vancouver.
A welcoming place that, totally. Yeah. And I imagine that with these waves of immigration, and even the Chileans coming throughout, you know, a period of years,
right. Yeah.
to arrive here and have this space where they felt you know, embraced, but also that's a community of artisans, so people would get here and find this space where they could be and flourish.
Yeah, it was a combination of community center and cultural center, right? Because I heard many stories of people arriving in Vancouver from their respective countries and not knowing where to go. And somebody would say, oh, there is a place on Commercial Drive. It's a Latin American. And they would, you know, come in like completely lost, and they would find a space where they belonged in Vancouver, you know. So yeah, La Quena was a wonderful project, and it lasted for 22 years. It wasn't always in the best of shapes, you know. It kind of went up and down, but it was a wonderful place. And then in the late 80s and 90s, I think that the main event, if you want to call it like that, that happened in among us was the launching of Aquelarre magazine, which I have many of our of the people will recognize Aquelarre. Aquelarre was a quarterly, a bilingual quarterly that a group of Latin American and Canadian women, we put it together as a way of, it was like a little community, a little artistic community, like the Vancouver Latin American Cultural Center for women, but all within a publication. It was like a meeting place for artists and other women around issues, around themes, around things that were happening to us here, things that were happening in Latin America, in the diaspora of Latin American women in the world. So we were so, looking back, because when you're in the middle of these things, you don't realize what kind of an impact, a long-term impact you're having. And up to now, I get calls, I get invitations, I get emails concerning Aquelarre, because younger generations, with the digital era, now come across Aquelarre, and they're really pleasantly surprised to see what amount of information is in these magazines, right?
So is it available? Is it available online?
It's available online through the University of Washington. A collaborator, well, actually one of those women that happened to find out about Aquelarre after Aquelarre was finished, she wrote a book in which she highlighted Aquelarre, and she's a professor at the University of Washington. Her name is Julie Shane, and she put everything online as part of the University of Washington Library. It also is still at the library here, the Central Library, and I don't know if Britannia would still have copies at the universities. Yeah, we had a good distribution, and it was available. And from those
and it
days,
was on for many years too, right?
It's 10 years.
10 years, yeah.
10 years, yeah. We feature the work of the artists that were becoming prominent or have been quite prominent in their respective countries before coming to Vancouver, like Argentinian Nora Patrick, like Chilean Cecilia Boissier, also Chilean Claudia Morgado, a filmmaker, Diana Fried, a visual artist from Mexico who was quite young then, and also Carmen Aguirre, who's now very well known as a theater actress.
Very well known, yes.
Yeah, she was starting then. And Alejandra Aguirre, who's collaborated with her photography. Like in this issue, we feature her photography in relation to the topic of child labor and unpaid work and that. And then this other one about women from different ancestries.
Yeah, so it is. I'm so glad that we are doing this on Women's Day, because it's really a story of empowering women and giving them a platform and highlighting their skills and their talents.
Yes, and it was a top-notch quality magazine. I'm not saying it because I was part of it.
No.
But it was the quality of the publication was incredibly good. And particularly when you think that practically all the work was volunteer.
Yeah, and so it was. There was it's starting to shape up to me as an image of a big sisterhood.
It was a collective Nobody had any more power than anybody else. We shared all the work, you know, when, sure, some people were better at this, some people were better at that, and we all shared the work. And our friend and colleague, Dale Fuller, who's Canadian, actually originally American, but Canadian for many years, she designed the logo, which there you can see is a circle of women, but the circle is open.
Oh, I see.
To let other women in, right? Or to let everybody in. Because Aquelarre, the collective, was all women, but the collaborators and the writers or the artists featured were all women, but the collaborators were everything, were men and women. And it was a huge endeavor, and it worked really well, although we were very tired a lot of it.
I bet. I just wanted to make a parenthesis here to thank everybody who's online watching us now. I'm Lili Vieira de Carvalho from the VLACC, the Vancouver Latin American Cultural Center. I'm talking with Carmen Rodríguez, who is being inducted as VLACC's Honorary Elder tonight at March 8th, 2021, International Women's Day. I think we kind of covered all the way to close to the 90s now, I believe.
Yeah, we're by the end of the 90s. And I just want to say that how this history works, right? Again, you know, Margarita Severin was part of the collective, right? I want to acknowledge that there were many women, but the main ones, Jasmine Miranda from Colombia, Irene Boisier from Chile, Carmen Contreras
from, great
yeah, from everywhere, and Canadians, Margot Croix, from who's Quebecois, was quite key to the organization, Caroline Jones, etc. It was Aquelarre also represented, I think, a way of establishing a Latin American presence, not only in Vancouver, but in Canada and in other places as well. It kind of launching us into the world, right? Of making connections, of going outwards, right? Of not staying in the ghetto, of not staying within ourselves doing our own thing, which could have been really great, but if nobody knows about it, you know, what's the sense? In a way, it's very, it could be very satisfying, but it does not help to put us in a dignified place in the world. And that was also part of Aquelarre.
I think it connects so well with VLACC's current mandate because it's a one of education and to contribute to the cultural legacy of all Canadians. By sharing a deeper understanding of Latin American arts.
And by breaking
something that we bring with us and that we can share with everyone.
And breaking stereotypes, right?
Well, exactly. A deeper understanding, not a superficial understanding.
You know, I have nothing against salsa, on the contrary, right? I love dancing to salsa and cumbia and all of that. And whenever there is an opportunity, I do that. I love it. And I'm very thankful for the bands that have that exist, that play that kind of music, and that also all kinds of Canadians enjoy. And that's great. But we're not just that, right? That's only part of who we are. So in Aquelarre and now with VLACC, what we're trying to do is to actually show that we're so much more. We're that, and we're also all of this, right? So I think that in a way, Aquelarre began that kind of work of opening those avenues, of connecting with the outside communities and in exchanging ideas and work and art and putting us in a dignified place in the Canadian scene.
So did you start publishing your own work at Aquelarre? Is that the way you started writing?
In a way, I started publishing a little bit in Chile before I left. I did publish a short, actually I got an award in a short story contest of Paula magazine back then in 72, 73. And then after that, I did not publish for a long time. But yeah, Aquelarre was a very important avenue for me to publish articles, you know, because at Aquelarre we did everything, you know, and whoever was able to interview so-and-so and write an article or research that and write an article, we relied quite a bit sometimes on ourselves because we didn't have the money or the time to commission things. Many times we did commission stuff, but other times the task was ours. So yeah. But I also had published in a few Canadian literary periodicals before I think Aquelarre started. Anyway, as I say, you know, Aquelarre was one of those attempts to put ourselves out there in the world. And at the same time, there were other attempts, like in 91, we were invited by the Vancouver International Writers Festival to be part of that festival. And I was commissioned with the task of putting together a Latin American program, which was wonderful, right? It was our first incursion as Latin Americans in Vancouver into that kind of mainstream big event. And we had people right from Vancouver, like Quijada Urias from El Salvador, like my brother actually, who was a poet, and myself, but also we brought people from Latin America and others from other parts of the world, that Latin Americans that were elsewhere. So those were also, it was the beginning of this opening up and breaking those barriers that I was talking about before. And yeah, and it kind of coincided with the beginning of my own publishing in book form, right? With the book of poetry, the volume of poetry in 1992. And then the other ones that you mentioned, yeah. Guerra Prolongada was the first one, the poetry, which was quite a feat in a way, because I really wanted that book to be bilingual. And I was rejected by a few publishers because they just wanted to do it in English. And I said, nope, I want it to be in Spanish and in English because that's who I am. And that's who we Latin Americans are. We came here speaking our own languages. And I want to respect that. And finally, Women's Press took the book and published it. Then the book of short stories, And a Body to Remember With, Retribution, the novel. And what I like to point out also is that these books are not just about anything. You know, they're not about whatever, the weather. They are about the experiences of Latin Americans here in Vancouver to a great extent. You know, it shows, again, how an artist, right, is embedded in a community. And that community nourishes you and supports you. And at the same time, you give back, right? Because a lot of those stories are based on true stories that happened to the Chilean community here in Vancouver. So, yeah, that was the beginning of writing or becoming a writer, which I had a lot of trouble accepting as a label, you know, because as I said, for me, all of these things that I've done are things that I've done and things that I do, and they're all part of one of the same thing. They're just different facets. Finally, I was able to say, okay, yes, I am a writer. I am an educator. I am this, I am that. But again, I always have to keep in mind, in my own mind, that these are things that I do, and they don't define me per se. You know, I'm a little bit more complicated than that. But yeah,
it seems to me that it's actually like, because you are able to use this, you are expressing yourself in different different media, right? Because you were able, and actually I wouldn't even say that much that is just different supports for the way you express yourself, because it's the way you carry yourself through life and the things that are important to you to pass on. And so writing is a way, as educating is a way. Yeah. And I think that is always a matter of being true to your values and what, and so that's so perfectly fits in the elder position, because it is that it is you know, the carrier of the knowledge, the person who pass on the oral history, when we only have like 2 little photos of La Quena to show.
I know.
Yeah. And so if we don't have, if we like I always feel grateful to this past, and also we learn from it, because we are not inventing something, you know. It's just we are just VLACC is pretty much we are following in the steps of those past experiences, learning from them. Like I remember us consulting you very early in the process about, you know, what went right and wrong with La Quena, how can we avoid mistakes, what are the important things to keep in the front of of our minds.
Yeah, and I think that along the years, one of the things that we have learned is that we have to keep a balance between our roots and where we come from and who we are, but also the fact that we've been here for X number of years, and that how that has changed us, and how we continue to evolve and to continue to change, and to take that into account, and to also helps us to connect with other communities that are sister communities to us. And at the same time, you know, there are tricks and there are things that we need to know about the mainstream that will help us, you know, like where do we get the grants? Where, how do we sell the tickets for the concert at the Queenie Theater, right? There are things that we have to know about how the mainstream scene works, so that we can also benefit from what they offer. For example, with Aquelarre, we had a lot of trouble getting grants, like operational grants from the Canada Council. We never got one. We got one finally from the BC Arts Council, a very little one, $5,000 a year, so that we could pay somebody to do like the letters and answer the phone and that kind of stuff. But from the Canada Council, we were never able to get a grant because our magazine was not considered an arts magazine. It was not specific enough. It was not about literature. It was not about art. It was not about theater. It was not about any of that, so specifically, but about a bit of everything. And I remember talking to the Canada Council on the phone and saying, what do you expect from a community that just arrived in Canada? that we're going to be able to have a magazine for each one of those different disciplines, right?
Yes, right.
You say that you say that Canada is a country of immigrants and blah 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 blah, but your programs don't fit our needs, right? You've got to change, and change has been happening because of all of us, right? Because we keep pushing for change. Same thing with the Writers Union of Canada, of which I'm a member, and I've sat on their national council. It's a struggle all the time because this country defines itself as bilingual, right? And the languages of all us immigrants are not valued. So we have tons of writers, Latin American writers in Canada, who write in Spanish, but whose work is, and who are Canadian, and who have been here for many years. But you know, to write in a different language, even though you may speak it really well, is not easy. So they write in Spanish, but their work is not known to the rest of Canadians because there are no grants for them to be able to turn them, you know, pay a translator to have them turned into one of the official languages and present to them to a publisher. So there's still so many struggles, right, to fight so that we can continue to advance.
But you can, I bet that, you know, with the growth of the community, in looking back, we've came a long way. I believe.
Oh yeah.
We have, yeah. And I think that one thing that I always talk when I talk about VLACC is this unique situation that we have, that we are all immigrants in Canadian lands, and that we have an opportunity here to be exposed to each other, Latin Americans, and to be, right, because it's something that, you know, back in Brazil, I didn't have an opportunity. And so I was, although within Latin America, I didn't have a feel for Latin America as I have here. And so when we host any of VLACC's events, it's common to have a room with, you know, 15, 20 people, a room, no? A virtual room these days. But with people from 8, 10 different countries, and bringing a vision of their, like, bringing their home background to the conversation. And this exchange, I think, is such a rich thing that we have access here that we wouldn't have otherwise. That is true.
Yeah. Very true. Yeah. It expands your mind, right? And your heart.
Expands our minds.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So here we are, you know, in the 2000s, with the Vancouver Latin American Film Festival, which Victor Martinez,
founded,
the president of the board of VLACC, founded, right? And got going so well organized and with such good quality, right? And now here with VLACC, which comes to, in my view, comes to kind of bring together all of these past experiences and this vision and this plan of actually having a place, a physical place for artists and for the Latin American community to show, as the mandate says, to educate or to show all Canadians our art and our cultures in the depth and the breadth of our arts and cultures, right? So here we go, and as honorary elder, I make a commitment to continue to help in whichever way I can to make this plan, this dream, come true. It would be great if when I see it happen, it will be really a dream come true. Yeah.
Yeah, that's our role now. Thank you so much, Carmen, because
You're welcome.
we are getting to the end of our time.
Yes.
I will let you know if anybody we have. I don't think you are following, but we have 28 people watching us right now. It has been pretty consistent. Several people sending their best to you, and of course, if anybody has any questions to Carmen, I'm looking at it right now, so feel free to send questions. But is just to to do a little segue on what you were saying. I think that I almost feel that there is that, like, VLACC will give this. It's a continuity of that same history now
Yes.
that you are part of, and
Mm-hmm.
that we. Hopefully the dream of VLACC, which is to establish a physical space for the Latin American arts and culture in Vancouver, will come to fruition. We knew going in that it would take time and effort, and we are doing VLACC has been all about planning and putting one step firmly on the ground before taking the next one. But step by step we are gathering support. We are growing as an organization and as a community.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have people saying, Elizabeth Alvarez Alfaro, just to say, Carmen, that your trajectory is very inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
Carmen Culebra saying that es gusto verte. Sandra Fonseca, Sandra Vigil, sending a hug to you.
Thank you.
Joby Joanne, who is a poet, recently immigrated to Canada. Joby Joanne Villarreal. Me encantaría conocer a Carmen Rodríguez. Saludos.
Mm-hmm.
So good to see everybody showing up tonight. And I would like to make an invitation to everybody who's watching. Carmen is currently working on her next novel called
Finished.
Atacama.
I already finished.
Oh, you finished it. That's amazing. Yeah, I know that it's coming up. It's being published in the fall, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's when. And so Carmen will be reading will be reading from her book From Atacama on the from the 25th, and I'm just going to quickly show this page, but just go to VLACC.ca and look at programs. So that's on the 25th. And let me just show you how this looks.
A sneak preview of Atacama.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, a sneak preview of Atacama. So people will have another opportunity to be on a Zoom meeting with you, where people will be invited to participate and to ask questions. And we have one question for you, or a couple of questions. So que consejo das a los artistas que llegan a Vancouver? What's your advice to artists arriving in Vancouver?
I guess that now that I'm an elder, I have to be ready to give advice, eh? Be happy.
Well, if I can pitch in, they should definitely contact VLACC. If you are a Latin American artist in Vancouver,
become a member of VLACC.
Yes, participate in our events.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's hard to break through. So just keep working, but not in isolation. That there is this myth of that artists, work by themselves, and they're all alone and doing their painting or doing their writing or whatever they're doing, right? And sure, we need that space, and we need, definitely, we need the solitude, and we need the concentration to be able to bring forth what we're doing. But we also need a community, you know. We cannot be, we are not isolated from a community. So when you move here, and if you move on your own, you know, I was part of a whole group, a whole community of people that arrived here at the same time with for similar reasons and with similar outlooks on life. But you know, if you come here on your own, find a community, because that's what's going to nourish you. That's what's going to support you, right? It's an artist by themselves. Sure, you can produce much, but you're going to be kind of lonely, I think.
Yeah, Ana Maria is saying thank you for the gracias for the answer. And with that, I think we'll say goodbye to everybody. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. As I mentioned, I'm just going to repeat. Carmen will be with us on a VLACC event on the 25th, reading from her novel Atacama. And so honored, so proud, so happy to have you as an elder. Now that you are committed to us, we're going to we're pretty much going to just keep on, you know, counting on you and on your support and advice, on the history you carry, on knowing that you have been always our soundboard and our, you know, upholder of values, and we will keep on counting on you for all that. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for your guidance. We are deeply grateful and very, very happy to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for being my community. Thank you for being my friends, and thank you to the larger community for being my nourishers and supporters. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. Bye.